We know each other. Good morning, everyone. We are back for Women's Wellness Wednesday. I feel like I introduced myself the first time, but I'm Tatum Escott, and I asked my friend to hop on here today. She is just a woman that portrays so much strength in her walk, and I have loved getting to know her and hear her story. So, you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Shelly Yates from Gary, Oklahoma, Dip City girl. It's an honor and a privilege to be asked to come and share today. Nervous, but if you're not nervous and you're not out of your comfort zone, then what benefit are you to others? You have to be willing to step out of that comfort zone. So here I am today.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I actually had to go back and look and see when we first met, because, and I looked and I was sure that it was after I got sober, but we actually, like, the first time that I had done your hair was in 2021. So I wouldn't have been sober. And you've been how long now? 9?
Let me see. 8 years.
8 years.
Of April, actually, of next month. Yeah, will be 8 years of sobriety.
Wow. That is beautiful. I remember when you came in and got your hair done for your, I think it was, you were going to be maybe 7 years sober or something. It was like right before then, or maybe it was your real birthday. I don't remember, but I just know that we've been able to talk recovery, when we're together, and just wellness. And I think that that's great. It's a great thing whenever you're able to relate with people on that level, just, and I have done hair for the last 8 years, and the people that I've connected with over the years and learning about them, you know, some people start out very surface level, and then as you get to know them and see them more, like, you get to really get in and get to know them on a different level. And I think that that's great. I am almost to the end of my journey of doing hair. I have 2 more weeks and then I'll get to be here full time, and I'm so excited. So I haven't really announced that yet or put that out. A lot of my clients know that that's what I'm doing, but I am so excited to work with these fun people and
It's awesome.
be, just spreading the message. Like Barry said, like, our mistakes are, like, what are our mistakes if we can't use that? You said they're sacred. Like, we have to share the message. This is how we heal. Is anyone on yet? Anyone? No one's saying good morning yet? Where y'all at?
Well, we just came off, so they're probably, you got 4 people on.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Y'all had to do your recap of the Tulsa trip. And see, I think that you were clowning on Mingo too much for what he did, and it backfired, huh? What'd you say? Excuse you. Oh, I was cracking up. That had me cracking up. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this meditation because, even in your walk of recovery, there's still, like, being able to have enough self-awareness to learn and realize your mistakes is a beautiful thing that we gain in, getting sober. So I'm just gonna read the main part. The Creator did not design us to beat ourselves up when we make mistakes. Mistakes are our friends. It is from mistakes that we learn. The more mistakes we learn from, the faster we gain wisdom. The faster we gain wisdom, the more we love. The more we love, the fewer our mistakes. Therefore, mistakes help us to learn love. God is love. mistakes are sacred and help us learn about God's will for ourselves. And that really spoke to me because, I I was talking with some ladies uh, here downstairs one time, and I said, I'm not perfect. I still say things. I'm not making the same kind of mistakes that I make when I was drinking or using, but I still make mistakes. I
Yes.
still say things that I'm like, dang, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And I have a story that goes along with that. Um, I was talking to my daughter's dad yesterday on the phone, and he said, "Yeah, I gave my coworker a ride home," and he was like, "Yeah, I'm a recovering drug addict." He was telling his coworker, and his coworker said, "Really?" Like he was shocked, like he couldn't believe it. And we kind of laughed about it, and I said, "Well, alcoholics and addicts are just normal people that
That's right.
just struggle, that just have something that's holding them back from life." And so we're kind of laughing, and I was like, what did he expect of you? And I guess his coworker was saying, the way you carry yourself, the way that you're put together now, and he just could never imagine that he would have done those things, made those mistakes. And all those mistakes led him up to who he is today. Well, I said something that came out like word vomit that maybe I shouldn't have said. And I said, "Oh, did you tell him that you were a two-timer too?" Because he relapsed and he went back to treatment. Um, and like I laughed about that, and he's like, "Oh, Jimmy two-timer," and like, but he got quiet. And I was like, man. And then I went back to the pain that he must have felt when he relapsed and feeling that all over again. And we hung up the phone, and well, before we hung up the phone, I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like I made a joke out of that. And I could tell he was offended. And so we hung up the phone because if we keep talking, it's gonna be an endless circle of just bad, just bad. And we hung up the phone. He texted me and he said, "Oh, I guess I'm just Jimmy two-timer, huh?" Like, and then I knew that we were going to be able to talk about it, and I was going to be able to reinforce my apology and say, I did not mean for that to be offensive. Um, I kind of just thought we were joking. And so it's just little things like that. But, before, if I wasn't sober, I would have said that and not had a care in the world what effect it had on a person.
Yeah.
Because the only person's feelings that mattered back then was mine. And so that was my little oopsie of yesterday, but I'm glad that I can just talk about it and get real about it. And your mistakes look different in recovery than they do when you were drinking and using, but they're there. They're gonna happen, and that's what we learn in the program is when we were wrong, promptly admit it. And so I try to live by that.
I have to elaborate on that. I like to say, our mistakes is what makes us as individuals, and it's without our mistakes, who would we be? It's we have to allow ourselves room to grow, and we don't grow without making mistakes. We're human. We're not perfect.
Hmm.
So and then in the midst of our mistakes, we have to know how to show ourselves grace. And I think in recovery as well, in the midst of making our mistakes, we're so harsh on ourselves that we have a tendency to not want to be able to forgive ourselves. But we're human. We've got to allow that grace. And of learning from our mistakes, it takes me back before we went live and sharing, of my pastor today was sharing on our group page, and of we have to be mindful of the things that we say. And he shared a scripture of it says, "Don't use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them." And that's Ephesians 4:29. And then that makes me think of your conversation with your baby's father, you know, and you were able to, you felt that conviction in that moment whenever you spoke what you spoke and you were able to own it.
Mhm.
That's another part of your recovery. We have to own the things that we do wrong. And hey, you know what? I did that. I admit that. When we take that ownership, we only allow ourselves to grow even that much more. And it's of being mindful of your words. It takes me back as a parent with my grown children, you know, of I wasn't always choiceful with my words whenever it came to my parenting. I just thought that was the normal way to parent. In the way that I spoke to my kids, I used to speak harsh to them.
Mhm.
And it was of to cuss at them. I felt that that was a way to grab their attention and that they knew that I was meaning business whenever I spoke of those words to them. And coming to realize now later in life and in my own growth and on my own journey, no, those weren't of the best words that I used with my own children. And I'm being given of an opportunity in the midst of those mistakes that I made as a mother with my own children. I'm being given of an opportunity to correct of those mistakes with my grandchildren, and you know, of getting my grandchildren back from foster care and the environment that they were in the midst of foster care. They weren't in a great environment, and so I'm able to recorrect of my mistakes with them and the choice of words that I choose to use with them, and of teaching them in, you know, this is the way that we're supposed to talk to people. We're supposed to be kind. We have to be mindful of the things that we say.
Mhm.
And of if people say things to us and they hurt our feelings by their words, then we have to be mindful and choose of the right words to say to people that we encounter. And that's been a struggle. And I can't sit there and to expect my grandchildren to do as I say and not as I do. So I'm always convicted of how I speak to them. You know, it's I don't want them to go out and think that it's okay, because I used to be that way of in the midst of my addiction or my old self. I was out to hurt your feelings before you were going to ever be able to hurt my feelings, and it didn't matter of what I said or what I did. But
Mhm.
that was just, I know now that that was of a form of hurt within my own self. It was a defense mechanism for myself to protect myself. That was the way that I felt that I had to protect myself. I'm going to break you before you break me.
Right.
And of that to be able to reflect on your mistakes. I think today's reading is a good reading. It's on point, and then not only that, to get here and to learn what the reading was for today, and then to have of the reminder from my pastor today in of we should always speak kind.
Absolutely. That's I know that's hard, that can be hard to share, you know, the ways that we treated our kids before we got sober. And I am absolutely, you know, I can say the same, that I did not speak light into my child or my siblings or anyone around me. You know, it was always harsh. And so to be able to get honest about it and own that, you know, like you said, is a beautiful thing. And the way that you get to do things differently with your grandkids, I promise you that that is healing your children as well. You know what I mean? Because I get to see my mom be a little bit more gentle with my brothers, not as hard on them, not as I don't know. I can be honest and say that we cuss. We cuss. And it's something that I want to work on, but it's not in a mean cussing way. You know what I mean? That's just, it's definitely not out to hurt people now. But it's a work in progress in our house, and I get to see my mom really admit when she's wrong and apologize to my brothers when she gets stressed out, and that heals my heart, you know, my little heart that was broken too. So it's an awesome thing. How are your grandkids doing?
They're doing actually they're doing good. You know, it's been a journey of we're coming up on a year that I've been reunited with them after 7 years and being in the system, and it's we have come of a long way. I tell them all the time, you know, it's this is new for all of us, not only for myself as it is for you guys, but it's I never had to raise my grandchildren.
Mm.
So it's I'm learning how to be able to be of the nana that I need to be for you guys. I only raised my kids, so I'm learning in this situation right along with you guys, you know, of the same as you guys of not having your nana as your parent, you know, it's all new.
Right.
But it's definitely have made of a lot of growth. They've come a long ways. Of we've been on a year-long healing journey of being reunited as a family of not completed, I guess you could say, because of the absence of their mother, but it's God has allowed us to be able to come back together as a family
Mm.
of not knowing of the reasons or knowing of the whys, but it's I feel that God's allowing me to redeem myself in a lot of ways by reuniting us. So, you know, it's I'm excited for them of reconnecting them with their culture of they're going to partake in the language fair in Norman. So they've been practicing
Nice.
of Arapaho hymns, and then Regina's been working with them through the education department. We got practice this evening. So, you know, it's I'm excited for them because they're excited. They're eager to learn, you know, so they're actually all doing well.
That's awesome. Their little brains are able to keep and retain language learning that young better than ours are. You know, our brains are scattered, and I found that out when Josie was in Head Start. She learned some Arapaho songs, some Cheyenne songs, and she can still sing them for you today. And that my mom was telling me that's why they start teaching kids so young, because they're able to remember. She remembers some words too, but not enough to put into sentences, you know.
Mhm.
But I think that that's beautiful, and I'm glad that she was able to get that knowledge, you know, so young. That's really cool that they're gonna do that. So, good morning, everyone.
Randy's in California. Michael's
Mm,
in South Dakota. Jen's in Billings.
good morning.
JJ's on. Charlene.
Hi,
Earl
Charlene.
says hi. Charlene says hi.
And this is not just for women. This is for everyone that feels like watching. This is just from a woman's perspective of healing and wellness and recovery. So, um, some things are just some blessings are really happening in my life. I haven't really told my family this yet. I don't know if I should say it.
Already started, so
Oh
now you have
no.
to. There ain't no taking it back.
Okay. So, I got some good news yesterday. Josie and I have lived with my mom for the last 2 years, and it's been nice being in recovery, having her as my support and having her as we're accountability partners. You know, when she's down, I'm up. When I'm down, she's up, and we just balance each other out. But I just feel for our relationship that it's time that me and Josie get our own place. And we did that yesterday. I should have recorded Josie's reaction. It was the most beautiful thing ever. Um, so just this, you know, me taking a new career journey, like these are all very positive things. And I just feel like my life continues to grow in faith and in recovery. And I'm so grateful. So I'm going to give Josie her own room for the first time ever. I cannot sleep with that girl anymore. She slaps me and kicks me in her sleep. We slept with 89 stuffed animals on our bed last night. I'm not kidding you. So, um, yeah, this is really a goal of mine that I had, but I didn't know when I was gonna be able to do it, you know? And so I had inquired about a few other places and they weren't working out, but I didn't allow myself to like get discouraged, you know? I just kept saying, well, that was not meant to be. That was not meant to be. And so I just kept praying about it. Something will come along. And it did. And so I'm really excited. I'm feeling really good today. How are
Well,
you? Like,
congratulations. That's a big step in life, of especially whenever you have of that comfort of, I say comfort, because if my mom was still alive and I had the opportunity to go back home, there wouldn't be no shame in my game. I'd gladly live with my mom,
mhm,
but it's, I just want to congratulate you, because that's a big step of in life, in having of that independency. And at the same time, there can be of that sense of fear in, am I going to be able to do this, of you, how you get comfortable in your environments, in your journey along the way. Sometimes we get comfortable, but it's, I want to tell you of congratulations, good job.
thank you. It's a good feeling for sure. It's you know, you do get comfortable and then I have this fear of getting comfortable, of staying the same, you know? Like once you find that you are able to change in your life, comfortability is scary, you know? I want to be forever like learning about myself and learning about new things and um yeah, knowledge is power, you know? Take on any opportunity that you can to just better yourself. Um Living with my mom has always been how I felt about it is that, you know, family supports family.
Hmm.
And we're there for our family. And her and I have been the only two in our family that have been able to be real with each other, you know? And we have no problem saying like, "Hey, that wasn't cool," or you know, like, "I don't like that." And sometimes, just from my experience, your family can, when you're down, your family can judge you instead of reaching out a hand and saying, "How can I help you?" You know, and that's kind of what I've experienced, not in my direct family, like my immediate family, um, but in my family, I've experienced that. And so I try to be mindful of that, you know, um, just saying, "How can I be there for you?" You know, in times of struggle.
Hmm.
I plan on cooking a meal every other Friday, having them over, you know, or going over to my mom's on Sundays to eat. And I have my little brothers, so I will miss them for sure, but it's a good thing.
Well, you got Melina from Nevada tuning in.
Hello.
Council on Alcoholism and Addictions from the Finger Lakes.
Mm.
So, you got a lot of good comments. Michaela, Bruce Bearshield. So, people tuning in all over the country.
All over. That's amazing.
Nationwide.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
that. 9 years of sobriety on the 18th.
Congratulations, Melina.
Congratulations. I'll be coming up on 3 years of sobriety this year, and it's those people that have, you know, like you, 7, 8, 9, like those people give me hope that I can continue on this journey, you know, no matter what. I know that you have been through a lot in even in your recovery journey, you know, a lot of hard things, and you've continued to push through. And I walk my journey. I've walked through a 12-step program um, and growing my faith. And I feel like we've talked, and you've grown your faith in your recovery. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and like what tools you use? You know.
Um, we're going to be here all day if I was to really sit there and to elaborate on my sobriety journey, and it's, geez, of unfortunately, I didn't work a 12-step program. I mean, I say that, but I believe also in sobriety, regardless and whether you say you work a 12-step program or not, you are working a 12-step program. It
Right.
may not just be of your everyday what people think is a 12-step program, going to AA, reading of the 12 steps and the traditions or whatever, but it's I got sober by the grace of God. I didn't get sober willingly. Of and if you've ever heard anybody sit there and to say of God's will for you, you cannot sit there and you can't fight against it no matter what. And it's, I believe that our journeys are predestined. Of when God created us, He already knew what our journey was going to be in this life. And of April 18th of 2017 was the last day that I got high, of last time, of that I took a hit of dope, and I remember that day. I say that's the day that I got sober, but I don't always count until the 20th, because the 20th is I was able to sleep from the 18th to the 20th in a jail cell.
Mm.
Of I fought with everything inside of me to not want to be in jail. And it's crazy. You hear everybody tell their stories and how they were incarcerated or what. Mine was petty, guys. But petty can still work to get you where you need to be. And it's I called everybody that I could call, come get me out, come post my bond. And that wasn't in God's plan for me. It was, I was made to sit down in a jail cell and I was made to be still. And after I gave in to that and stopped fighting, then I picked up my Bible and I began to read that. And for the first time in my life, reading of that, it began to make sense to me. I was able to relate to the things that I was reading in the Bible and how it applied to my life and how I needed to apply those things in my life, and it's I didn't go to treatment. I didn't work in AA program, but it was all God's grace and how I got sober.
Mhm.
And like I say, it wasn't my desire of that of December of 2016. I had lost my companion on Christmas. So of my sick mind at the time is I was going to get high until I died. That's the way that I thought. That's the way that I coped. And it was I didn't have to feel the pain. I didn't have to feel the emotions of I was I was painless whenever I was high.
Mhm.
There wasn't anything that I could not do whenever I was high. I had the courage of I had what I thought was the self-esteem in the midst of my addiction of I was invincible whenever I was high, but it's to reflect back in of those times in my life. I had to lose, that was a part of losing my companion was a part of my sobriety. And people might say that that's crazy for me to say, but I can't sit here and even began to think, where would I be at if my companion was still alive? Because we were both in addiction and we were codependent upon one another, of in our addiction. We were the best dang addicts that there were. I say that all the time. We were the best addicts back then, of
Mhm.
we partnered in everything. And I say that. It's crazy that I say that. And I still think that. I think, I wasn't a rugged addict, but that was sickness within my addiction to sit there and to think, we all get rugged in our addiction. But it's without God's grace, without of people coming behind me in the midst of my journey, people that I never would have even thought that would be supportive of me in my journey, that people that even believed in me in my addiction stood behind me as I began to get sober.
Wow.
But it's without those people reconnecting of, I hear it all the time on here, reconnecting with of your traditions, of the native way of life, of
Mhm.
I have of those people that mentored me along the way of, and I get told all the time, of, you got soft. No, I didn't get soft. I just have came to realize a lot of things that as I was living in addiction, that wasn't the way to be, and so now I can sit here and I can reflect now if the way that I treated people or how I acted, that was all of a cover to not have to deal with the pain that I had on the inside,
Mhm.
and it's God's he healed me. He's made me today to be sitting here today. It's a blessing to be able to sit here today and to tell part of my story. And it's I hear the guys all the time on the lives, we recover out loud, because what good is your recovery if you're not willing to recover out loud? Because it might be just your story that somebody needs to hear to give them hope. And that's what I would like everybody to know, of when you feel like you're hopeless, there's hope. And it's, you have to find the positive in your situation. If I used to be a negative person, and it was, I expected and I looked towards the negativity of in my life. I thrived off of that, the negativity of not knowing that it wasn't normal. Today I can be faced with certain situations, and I just of, that's just the way that it is. That's a part of God's plan, of,
Mhm.
what is this trying to teach me today? What is it that God is trying to prepare me for? Or I try to look at the good in the situations opposed to sitting there staying focused on the bad, because it's, even with myself and building myself and being able to forgive myself, it's, I have to see myself as good. If I can't see myself as good, then how can I expect anybody else to see me as good?
Right.
So of your thoughts, the way that you think, that plays of a imperative role in your sobriety, of in your self-esteem, in how you grow, of you have to see of the good within yourself. And it's, it's crazy, but I can elaborate of all day long on my journey, of everybody's journey has been difficult in one way or another in how they obtained their sobriety, and some, their journey has been harder than others. Of what might not have been hard for one, of was hard for somebody else,
Mhm.
and it's to sit there and to say, of, everybody can say of the things that they lost along the way and what drove them to sobriety, and that is what drove me, I guess, to of sobriety and experiencing of tragic loss at a young age, of my father whenever I was 15, and then my mother, whenever I lost my mother. I lost a sibling 6 months after my father, not knowing in of that loss, that grief, and the role that it played, and it was left unattended, and to where it manifested as I grew, as I became of a mother, as I began to raise children. I tried to push those things to the back and not realizing those were things that I needed to address, but at the same time, I didn't know how to address them,
Mhm.
because I come from a family and as a Native individual, I think we're all raised like that, in of what goes on in our household stays in our household. You don't show weakness of You don't cry, you don't have this because that's a sign of weakness. We're not weak people. Of that's just of I believe how a lot of us were raised. So experiencing the grief and the loss and not understanding back then, because I don't even think way back then whenever, my mother, my grandmother, and them, mental illness or mental things wasn't something that was talked of. And to even today, it's still it's still people aren't comfortable of talking about their mental well-being.
Mhm.
But I think it all plays hand in hand. If your mind is sick, it's not anything different in what you would go to the doctor for. And if something is ailing you in your body and then you feel concerned, I need to go to the doctor because I don't know why this is happening. That's the same way with your mind, and it all interconnects. If your mind's not healthy, then how can your body be healthy? And
Right.
it's in my sobriety journey, that's been one thing that I've had to get comfortable with, and knowing, hey, you know what? My mind's not okay. And I can remember in 2013, the first time that I had of difficulty, I guess you could say, with my mental. I can remember being at work, and it was like my mind had just went blank. Of I couldn't remember my clock in number to clock in for work. I couldn't remember my login to log into my computer. I was just overcome with all this of anxiety and this fear. And it's the IHS was right there next to the casino, and I'm sit there and I tell my boss, I got to go to the clinic. Something's wrong with me. I don't know what's going on. And that was my first experience in having of a full-fledged, I guess you could say, panic attack. I don't know what triggered it. I don't know. And that's whenever I first started attempting to address my mental health. Today, it's I got to stay of connected of
Mhm.
with Christ, of with Creator, and I have to keep of that connection to keep balance, because if I don't, I'm all out of whack. It's of my of daily readings, my Jesus calling, my amazing grace, of my praying the minute that I open my eyes, to be able to say, Lord, thank you for this day. And then to pick up my books and to begin reading, and that that is what keeps me balanced. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me accountable. Of the minute that I open my eyes and I'm able to sit there and to give thanks and gratitude in that moment for this day that I've been blessed with, because it's the way that I see it. If you're blessed to be able to open your eyes, then your work here on earth isn't finished.
Mhm. Barry says, on God's wake up list, right? I put that as my alarm thing. That's a good little, I woke up again today. Like, what a blessing. You didn't used to find like blessings in that. You used to be like, "Oh, where am I at? What am I doing?" And just to be grateful for something as simple as that. Back to some of this stuff that you touched on, like, I don't think that we get sober and then find God or our higher power. I think that He finds us like in the darkness.
You're absolutely right. And that's of what I was getting at, of God's will. You can't sit there and you can't deny of God's will for you. And it is, He gives us of the free will to choose. And that's what's so great about it. We have of the free will to choose. We can choose to follow the way of what I choose, God. I choose to call my higher power God. He gives us of that free will to choose to follow Him in His way, or either choose to follow the way of the world.
Hmm.
And prior to of getting sober, we chose to follow the way of the world, and we tried to do things on our own, of thinking that we were in control, thinking that we had the power, but yet our lives were so unmanageable
Right.
that we didn't even really know what to do with ourselves. And then God sits there and He says, okay, you know what? Enough's enough. I'm going to pull you over here. I'm going to redirect you. I'm going to put people in your life and that's how I see it, you know, of the people that's in my life or that has been a part of my life. They weren't just by chance. Those are people that God put in my life for a specific purpose or a specific reason, whether I am able to realize it for what that purpose of that reason is, but he put them there for a reason. And that's just like with you, you know, in of some of the conversations. I never thought to be sitting in a hairdresser's chair getting my hair done or whatever, because first time it's awkward. You know, I don't even really know who this is. They're doing my hair, and then the conversation starts out, and then the next time you go, it's you touch base on the previous conversation, and then your conversations continue to keep going and going. And I don't think it's by coincidence, and I don't think it's by chance that there's reason and there's purpose on why our paths have
Crossed.
crossed.
Absolutely. That is that's what I was thinking about, like, before I came in this morning, you know. God definitely lines you up with those people who are going to watch you walk this journey and walk it right next to you, you know? Um, like you were saying about getting your hair done and it being awkward. I'm not an awkward person. I'm like an open book. And I don't usually start my intro with when I'm in my place of work right now with I'm Tatum, I'm an alcoholic. I could, you know, I very well could. But it's kind of like I read the room a little bit, I read the energy, and then I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm sober." You know? And I feel like I've been able to relate with people or plant the seed or uh give them, like, they have that aha moment in my chair and they're like, "Oh, I want to know how you did it," you know? And I'm able to talk about it. And I love that. Like, I love being able to share, cuz you know, you said recover out loud. Like, back then people didn't talk. No one talked about mental health, addiction, recovery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I grew up drinking from the age of 15 because that's what people talked about in my family. That's what people did. And everything has been able to turn around, and I get to share about my recovery today, and I'm not, you know, sitting around drinking or using, and that's the gist of my life. You know, it very well could have been, or it could have taken me to death. So um Cassandra said, "Good morning, my beautiful sisters."
Good morning.
Starting with gratitude sets a beautiful tone for the gift of today. Yes. Being grateful for every little thing. Waking up. I'm always grateful for the like whatever is on the agenda for that day, whatever opportunities I have, you know. I get to go tonight and go to my brother's award ceremony, and it's a blessing to be invited to those things. My sponsor used to remind me all the time, because, you know, recovery life can get a little busy and a little hectic. And sometimes you can get kind of lost in that. Like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what day it is, where, you know. But she used to remind me often that what a blessing it was to be busy. What a blessing it was to have things that occupy your time, you know, good things. So, see. Charlene said, "It's not crazy to say that. It's relatable. Shelly had some good words for me when my mother passed. Still hear them today. Thank you, Shelly. Glad to hear grandbabies are with y'all again."
Thank you, Charlene.
From Muskogee.
Janet says, hey, and she's right there.
Hi.
Are you on this?
Yeah.
Are you around the corner?
Are you hiding?
Keep crawling in.
Oh my goodness.
Hips. Joanne Black says, good morning from Oklahoma City.
Good morning. It's a good Wednesday for sure.
And Augustine Spotted Corn Red Hat has 172 days.
Congratulations, Augie.
Congratulations.
Keep on keeping on.
One day at a time.
And Kimberly Sexton's tuning in from Muskogee.
Muskogee, everywhere. I am taking this New York trip this year, and I was like talking to them about missing work and how that was all going to go down. But I called to talk to where I went to treatment. I went to treatment in New Jersey. It's just a short train ride away. And I think I'm going to go speak over there and tell my story while I'm there.
Oh, that's
So,
going to be awesome.
yeah, I think I'm 2 out of 25 that made it through and have stayed sober. And, a few of them have passed away too. And unfortunately, that's the sadness of this, thing. And I was thinking about my little two-timer joke. We don't care how many times it takes you to make it back. Just make it back, We don't care how many trips you take back out, as long as you come back through, And I would never want someone to feel bad about that, or also, like, no matter what your rock bottom looked like, everyone's rock bottom looks different.
That's right.
Mine probably looks way different from everyone else's sitting in this room. But as long as you made it out, like, I would never try to make someone feel like, oh, my rock bottom was worse than yours. You know what I mean? Because we all made it out, and I think that's the main thing.
And it's I like to say, there's always hope. In the midst of our addiction, we were to a point in our lives into where we're hopeless, and that's in the midst of our addiction. And well, for me anyway, that was of I might as well just go get high again, of what's the point? That's the only thing that I had hope in, because it never failed me in that moment and to numb of my feelings and my emotions. And it's today I can say, though, there is hope outside of addiction. And it people looking from the outside in on another individual who is in sobriety or whatever. Sobriety is not easy. If people tell you that it's easy, or you're looking out and you're looking in and you're wondering how I want what they have. How did they get there? Uh, I'm here to tell you, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. It's just not. It's a journey within itself. But you have to get to a point in your life to where that is something that you desire. You desire to want something different than what your addiction has to offer you, and you're willing to obtain that at whatever cost that it may be. Of, and I say that because it was I I got to put forth the effort in my sobriety and what I put in my addiction.
Mm-hmm.
It was at all cost I was gonna do of anything to be able to maintain my highness. So, if I put forth that kind of effort in staying high, why can't I put forth that effort in my sobriety journey?
Right.
And it's I just like to remind the people, of there's hope. And it will be lonely of in the beginning, because you got to change of the people, the places, of everything that was all familiar to you. Of you have to let go of all that familiarness and all those old people, all those old places, all those old things, in order to get what's new.
Mm-hmm.
I say that's just like there was a point in my sobriety in of alcohol wasn't my drug of choice. Of did I drink? Was I an alcoholic? Yes, I drank. I was an alcoholic probably at one point in my life or whatever, but that wasn't my drug of choice. My drug of choice was meth. And I can remember I probably had about maybe 2 years, 3 years worth of sobriety underneath me. And I'm like, well, I can go to the bar, of alcohol ain't my problem, but at the same time, it was I had to rethink that. It was, if I drank alcohol, alcohol was only going to lead for me to get high.
Mhm.
And then once I started getting high, I didn't need the alcohol no more. And it was, I wasn't going to go and hustle up for a tall can or whatever, you know, I was going to go get that sack. That's what my hustle was. I am, that's being transparent, you know, and I wasn't sharing with you. I wasn't. And it's, but I got to a point in my sobriety and where I thought that I could go to the bar, that I could hang out, that I could just go and shoot pool or whatever. But then I come to realize, you know, it might not be in that very moment, but I was only setting myself up for failure if I didn't change of my behavior in the way that I was thinking and trying to justify that it was okay.
Right.
Even though I wasn't an alcoholic, I was bound to sit there and to pick up a drink, and if I picked up that drink by being in that atmosphere, then I knew I was going to the trap house. I was gonna go and hustle that sack, and then so the 2 and 3 years that I had as sobriety was gonna be out the door, and today, though, I can say of I can reflect on those moments and be like, "Wow," but today I can say the desire in my heart is to not to ever go back to that type of life because God has been so good to me on my journey, and why would I wanna throw away everything and what God has blessed me with on my sobriety journey to go back to a dark, dark way of life?
Mhm.
So we have to be mindful of the people in the company that we keep. And it's okay to sit there and to say, hey, you know what? I got to step away. This isn't of working out and it's not of in my best interest in the journey and where I'm at today. You know, it's okay to tell people that. It's okay to advocate what you feel is best for you in your journey in sobriety, you know, and if people really respect you on that journey, they're going to respect you of saying that, and they're not going to say, oh, you're just trying to act better because you're sober. I've heard that of endless amount of times on my journey. Oh, you're better. You're one of those people, you know, of even though you used to sit in the trap house or whatever, or you used to sit in the circle, you're better now because you're sober. No, I'm not better than you. I'm willing to help you obtain what I've obtained, but are you willing?
Right.
And when you're willing, of I'm here. I'm available. You know, I'm willing to share with you in how I got here when you're ready,
Mhm.
you know, and it's I just have to elaborate more and you know of that journey. That journey does sometimes seem like it's lonely, but you'll get to a point into all the new relationships that you acquire along the way and of sober like-minded people
Yes.
because you have to surround yourself with like-minded people that have of the same or similar goals in of what you have of in maintaining of your sobriety.
Mhm. And God sets you up with those people too,
Yes.
you know. And like Shelly said, sobriety, especially the early days, you got to go through first that uncomfortable feeling, um, being alone, the pain. You gotta work through the pain that you inflicted on yourself and everyone else. It starts with hard things, but I promise you, if you keep going, like keep taking those little steps, it will be worth it. The first night that I was home alone, like this was in my first month of sobriety, home alone on a weekend without Josie. And I was like, I just walked to the kitchen like, what am I even doing here? Like what I'm supposed to be doing something, you know?
Mhm.
And I kind of had a moment uh with God, like saying, this is going to be uncomfortable for a minute, you know, but find something to do. And that's when I started painting. And so on the weekends, I would paint And I always thought it was really beautiful because Josie would sit next to me sometimes and paint, and she would paint exactly what I was painting. And it wouldn't be perfect, obviously, you know, she's little, but she would like mimic what I was painting. And we spent a lot of our weekends doing that, keeping my hands busy, you know. And then meetings too. Meetings um, is where, you know, you find your community, whether it be Wellbriety, AA, NA, church, you know, no matter what it is, you find your community, and then you're not so lonely anymore. And then you get connected with a higher power, and it's just little things that lead to a more positive and healthy lifestyle, and it'll be worth it, you know.
Yes, it will be.
So, I just want to say thank you for being here and sharing your story. We definitely need to have you for a speaker night so we can hear your whole story
Yes.
from beginning to end, you know?
Well, I thank you for reaching out and inviting me. Is crazy because I've been sitting here for like the last week or so. I've been so busy. I'm always of doing something. Of grandkids are always doing of having something of church. Of we have counseling on one night out of the week. And I was like, man, I really do need to sit here and message Tatum. I need my hair done. It's getting too long. I got to make time to message her. And then the message pops up yesterday. And then before I could, before I could even allow myself to sit there and to talk myself out or whatever, I was just like, sure, absolutely. And then, by the way, since you messaged me, I've been meaning to message you of, I need to make an appointment.
Yeah.
So it's, and then, you know, I went home and I had to pray about it. I'm like, Lord, I just sat there and I said yes, and then not really giving it thought in if I can really do this. But it's I'm always reminded you, if it's comfortable, then if what you're going through is comfortable, is it really helping you grow? Because are you really being challenged to your full potential if you're comfortable? And sometimes I think that's where we stumble ourselves when we get comfortable. And I'm like, just Lord, I just ask that you just give me strength fill me with your spirit. I always sit here and to say, let me be of your willing vessel, Father God. Give me the words to speak to the people that I encounter today. Let me be an encouragement to them. Of God, I really need you to do these things for me. You know, take away these of anxious feelings. Don't let there be no anxious feelings. Don't let me sit there and be of critiquing of my own self and then talking myself out of it. You know, of and then here I am today and just not trying to look at this screen right here. And then Barry was like, "Oh, it'll be all right. It'll just let it flow."
Yeah.
So I appreciate you for asking me. I thank you guys for the opportunity to sit here on the couch, you know, and I just want to tell you guys, I tell y'all all the time, you know, I think that it's a great thing in what the tour program does. Of you guys have reached of a lot of people of the recovering out loud. Of I say it all the time, and I wonder if Barry, if Eyeball, if he really knows and how proud of I am of him, because it's I remember him whenever he was younger, you know, and me and Janelle and a few of us others, were roommates. We had apartments together, and then Barry and them being teenagers. It's just the secrecy in of the addiction, you know, and they would come to our apartments and we'd let them have our apartments while we were out at the club trying to sit here and bar hop from ladies night. We knew where ladies night was every day of the week. So it was, yeah, you guys can come over and sit at the apartment or whatever, and they'd be there. They'd wait until we got home. we'd close the bars down, and then the second party would just now be beginning.
Uh-oh, they started the after party before y'all got back.
Yes. So, I always sit there and I think, it makes my heart full to be able to see of an individual, to have of that involvement with the individual, and then not knowing of his true struggle in the midst of his addiction. Always had it in the backside, but he wasn't one that I sat there and I was in active addiction with, or that I partook with in that sense or whatever, but knowing that we come from of that same background, and then to know how far he's grown and his growth, and to see of the amount of people that he's touched with his story, and just knowing I'm proud of you. And I feel, the tour program, I used to say it all the time, we need something. We need something that somebody is really going to actually sit there and to put heart into it. Somebody that really understands what addiction it is, because I don't feel that our older generations, I don't feel that they really understand the depths of it for what it is today. Of even in my own journey, I say it all the time, of I there's no way that I could ever go back to that way of life, because I would become another statistic in that addiction,
Mhm.
because I've watched it of my my oldest daughter. I've watched of addiction today. It's vicious. I mean, it's always been vicious, but today it's even more vicious. And I've seen it take so many of individuals of her age, and I see that it continues to take of individuals. It doesn't discriminate of age, race, of sex, of social status, of money, the rich, the poor. It does not discriminate at all. And
Mhm.
I sit there and I say, I would become a statistic if I was to ever sit there and to think that I could go back, or that I'm invincible to that. I would be of one of those ones that I would lose my life in addiction if I was to ever relapse and go back. So I always have to be mindful in of the things that I choose, because I can't sit there and to allow myself to set myself up for a relapse. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful for that God's kept me covered in that sense, in that aspect.
Mhm.
But again, I just want to say that I appreciate the tour program. I'm proud of the tour program, and how far it has come, in all the efforts that every individual puts forth into the tour program, and to reaching the people, and all that y'all do, of your service work, of all of that in the communities. Of I like of seeing of, even you guys don't just limit it. You guys are even taking it into the county jails. And then that makes, I didn't have anything like that whenever I was sitting in county. We didn't have anybody coming into the jails to say, hey, you know what, there's hope, there's a way, let me tell you what I know, or what's helped me, or whatever. And I think that makes my heart full, in seeing of all this transpire within CNA country. And it's not just limited to Cheyenne and Arapaho. It's available to all people, and
Mhm.
that I think that's great.
Yes. We are definitely moving mountains.
Mm.
So shout out to Tor and the creator for leading the way too.
Yes.
I'm grateful to sit on this couch today, and I just said yesterday, I don't know a lot, but I do know that that God has allowed me to wake up for 940 something days sober. So if I can talk about that and plant any seeds, or, give one person hope, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be here, and I'm going to show up. And so grateful for this day. For everyone that tuned in, I hope you have a wonderful day. Whether you have 1 day of sobriety, 1,000, or you're just thinking about it, just know that you are worthy of that, and I'm sending you love.
You got it, Barry. I believe in you. Almost there. Up. Gotta go up. Almost there. Up. Up a little bit more.